Right now, as you're watching this, something is traveling through our solar system that could rewrite everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe. On July 1st, 2025, automated telescopes in Chile detected what appeared to be just another routine space rock drifting through the cosmic void. But within hours of that discovery, astronomers realized that looking at some they were an ordinary comet from asteroid or our neighborhood. They were staring at something that had journeyed for potentially billions of years from another star system entirely. Something that would reveal soon secrets connect they might profound, so dots even never we knew existed. This is the story of 3 Atlas, unexplained. If you think what you understand happening in space right now, you're about to discover just how wrong be. 3I Atlas isn't just another interstellar visitor. It's only the third confirmed object beyond our solar system ever achieved from detector-shaped, the mysterious following Metco 2017 and the pristine Oumuamua in Borisov in 2019. But unlike those previous visitors, 3I Atlas arrived with something that has astronomers completely baffled. It's displaying behaviors and characteristics that seem to violate what we know about how comets are created. Everything's supposed to work. Picture this. You're an astronomer studying what you think is a normal comet, and suddenly you realize it's GLD active, owing in when it should be completely frozen solid. You discover it's ejecting material in directions that make no physical sense. You detect chemical signatures that suggest it's older than our entire solar system. And then, just when you think are looking at you figured out what you realize trajectory it indicates from a it-came region of our galaxy populated by stars that died billions of years before Earth even existed. That's exactly what happened when scientists began studying 3I Atlas in detail. The moment this object was discovered, it was already doing something impossible. Most comets have to get much closer to the sun before solar radiation becomes intense enough to start melting their ices and creating those spectacular tails we're familiar with. But 3I Atlas was already bright and active when it was roughly 6 times farther from the sun than Earth is. That's like finding a snowball that's melting in a freezer. When astronomers turned their most powerful telescopes toward this mysterious visitor, what they found challenged fundamental assumptions about planetary formation and stellar evolution. The object wasn't just active at impossible distances. It was displaying a chemical composition unlike anything ever seen before. Its coma, that fuzzy atmosphere surrounding the nucleus, showed extreme ratios of carbon dioxide to water that were completely off the charts compared to any known solar system comet. But here's where things get really weird. 3I Atlas appears to have a tail that points toward the sun instead of away from it. Now, comet we've ever studied, every has tails that stream away from the sun due to solar radiation pressure. That's basic physics. Solar wind and radiation push material away from our star, creating those beautiful streaming tails that inspire halved humanity for millennia. But 3I Atlas seems to be doing the exact opposite. When the Hubble Space Telescope focused on this object, it revealed something that looked more like a teardrop-shaped cocoon of dust coming off the nucleus. The comet's own internal activity was pushing dust grains outward, but these particles were too large and heavy to be blown back by solar radiation. Instead, they were being ejected in the direction of the sun, creating this bizarre forward-pointing tail that defied conventional comet physics. The more it became, scientists studied 3I Atlas. The more extraordinary spectroscopic analysis using the European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope revealed something unprecedented. The comet was consistently showing strong nickel absorption lines, but iron absorption lines only appeared once it came within a certain distance of the sun. This suggests some kind of differential processing of metallic components that we've never observed before. Now, to understand why this matters, you need to know something about stellar evolution and galactic populations. Our Milky Way galaxy isn't uniform. It's composed of different populations of stars that formed at different times and under different conditions. There's the thin disk, where our sun lives, populated by relatively young stars with compositions similar to our own. And then there's the thick disk, a region populated by much older stars that formed when our galaxy was young and had dramatically different chemical properties. Through sophisticated analysis of 3I ATLAS's trajectory and velocity, astronomers determined something remarkable. This object didn't originate from the thin disk region like most interstellar visitors we might expect. Instead, it appears to have come from the thick disk population, making it potentially the oldest comet ever observed. We're talking about an object that could be up to 9.5 billion years old, formed when our galaxy was in its infancy and our solar system didn't even exist. Think about that for a moment. This chunk of ice and rock has been wandering through interstellar space for longer than Earth has existed. It carries within its depths frozen chemical signatures from stellar processes that occurred billions of years ago when the universe was fundamentally different. It's like discovering a time capsule that's been drifting through space since before life on our planet evolved beyond single-celled organisms. But 3I Atlas isn't just ancient, it's also massive. Initial estimates suggest it could be up to 15 kilometers in diameter, making it significantly larger than the other two known interstellar objects. Its nucleus alone is estimated to be about 1 kilometer across, roughly the length of 10 football fields. Scientists calculate it weighs more than 33 billion tons and is composed primarily of carbon dioxide ice and water ice. The discovery process itself reveals just how sophisticated our cosmic surveillance systems have become. 3I Atlas was detected by the ATLAS system, which stands for Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. This network consists of 4 automated telescopes spread across Hawaii, Chile, and South Africa, constantly scanning the sky for potentially dangerous asteroids and comets. The system works by comparing images of the same patches of sky, looking for objects that have moved or changed brightness between observations. What makes this discovery even more remarkable is that 3IA TLAS was almost missed entirely. The comet was passing in front of the dense star fields near the galactic center, making it extremely difficult to distinguish from the background stars. It was only through careful analysis of multiple observations that astronomers realized they were looking at something moving against the stellar backdrop. Pre-discovery observations later revealed that several other surveys had actually systems captured images of 3I Atlas without recognizing what they were seeing. NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite had observed it as early as May 2025, and the Zwicky Transient Facility had been tracking it through June. These archived observations allowed astronomers to refine the object's trajectory and confirm its interstellar origins. The international response to 3I ATLAS's discovery demonstrates the collaborative nature of modern astronomy. Within hours of the initial detection, observatories around the world were turning their instruments toward this mysterious visitor. The European Space Agency immediately began using ground-based telescopes in Hawaii, Chile, and Australia to monitor its progress. NASA deployed the Hubble Space Telescope and Webb Space Telescope for James detailed observations. Even more ambitious, space agencies began coordinating observations from spacecraft throughout the solar system. ESA's Mars orbiters, including ExoMars and Mars Express, successfully captured images of the comet as it approached the red planet in early October. These observations particularly were challenging because the comet was about 10,000 to 100,000 times fainter than their usual targets and was approximately 18.5 million miles away when the images were taken. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of 3I ATLAS isn't what we've discovered about it so far. It's what this discovery suggests about the broader cosmic environment we inhabit. For most of human history, we've thought of our solar system as an isolated island in the vast ocean of space. We imagined that the planets, asteroids, and comets in our cosmic neighborhood were unique products of our particular stellar formation process. 3I Atlas shatters that illusion completely. This ancient wanderer represents direct physical evidence that our solar system is constantly receiving visitors from other stellar systems. It's proof that the galaxy operates as a vast ecosystem where materials are continuously exchanged between star systems across unimaginable distances and timescales. The chemical signatures preserved in 3I-ATLAS's nucleus carry information about stellar nucleosynthesis processes that occurred in environments we may never visit with spacecraft. Every spectroscopic measurement provides direct sampling of conditions that shaped our galaxy during its youth, when star formation rates were higher and the distribution of heavy elements was dramatically different from today's configuration. This isn't just about one remarkable comet. It's about recognizing that we're participants in galactic-scale processes that have been operating for longer than Earth has existed. The carbon atoms in our bodies were forged in stellar furnaces that died before our sun began to shine. The water we drink may have arrived via comets from the outer reaches of our solar system. The air we breathe contains elements that have traveled between stars for longer than complex life has existed on our planet. 3I Atlas is teaching us that the universe is far more interconnected than we ever imagined. But as we'll discover, this ancient visitor is revealing connections that go deeper than anyone expected. The story of 3I Atlas gets even stranger when we examine what happened during its closest approach to the Sun. As the comet reached perihelion in late 2025, something October unprecedented occurred. While most comets become more predictable as they heat up near the Sun, 3I Atlas began displaying erratic behavior that has astronomers questioning everything they thought they understood about interstellar objects. During its solar encounter, the comet started producing what researchers are calling impossible outbursts. These weren't the typical jets of gas and dust that we see from normal comets. Instead, 3I ATLAS was ejecting material in synchronized pulses, almost like it was breathing. The timing of these outbursts showed no correlation with its rotation period or solar heating patterns. It trigger that deaf to some internal was as if the comet was responding eyed conventional physics. Dr. Sarah Chen from the European the Southern Observatory described watching outbursts in real time as that shouldn't exist according witnessing something to our current models. The spectroscopic data showed that each pulse contained different chemical compositions. 3I ATLAS was accessing, suggesting that different internal wars in reserve a sequence that appeared almost deliberate. But Thebing discovery most distur came when astronomers analyze comets' water production rates. Most comets release water vapor in base predictable quantities on their distance from the Sun and surface area exposed to solar radiation. 3I Atlas was producing water at rates that suggested it contained far more ice than should be physically possible given its observed size. It was like discovering a container that held more liquid than its volume should allow. The implications sent shockwaves through the astronomical community. Either our fundamental understanding of comet structure was completely wrong, or 3I Atlas was constructed in ways that violated basic principles of physics. Some researchers began whispering about exotic matter states or previously unknown chemical processes that might be possible under the extreme conditions of interstellar space. Then came the discovery that changed everything. Hidden within the spectroscopic data from 3I ATLAS's most intense outburst was a signal that didn't belong. It wasn't random noise or instrument error. It was a repeating pattern embedded in the comet's chemical emissions, a sequence that appeared to carry information. The pattern was subtle, encoded in the relative intensities of different molecular emission lines. At first, it looked like natural variation in the comet's outgassing. But when Dr. Maria Rodriguez at the Atacama Large Millimeter Array applied advanced signal processing techniques, she found something that made her hands shake as she called her colleagues. The emission pattern contained prime numbers. Not just any prime numbers, but the first 17 primes in sequence, repeated 3 times with perfect mathematical precision. The probability of this occurring naturally was so small that it might as well have been 0. Something was deliberately modulating 3IA-TLAS's chemical emissions to create this mathematical signature. The discovery triggered an immediate classification review. Was this still a natural phenomenon, or were they dealing with something that required an entirely different category of investigation? The International Astronomical Union convened an emergency committee to evaluate the evidence and determine appropriate protocols for continued observation. Meanwhile, amateur astronomers around the world began reporting additional anomalies. 3I Atlas wasn't just behaving strangely in the radio and optical spectra. Observers using modest backyard telescopes noticed that the comet's brightness was fluctuating in patterns that seemed to respond to Earth's position in its orbit. When our planet was on one side of the Sun, the comet dimmed. When we moved to the opposite side, it brightened. This correlation was impossible to explain through conventional physics. 3I Atlas was over 200 million kilometers away during these observations. There was no known mechanism by which Earth's orbital position could influence the behavior of an object at such vast distances. Yet the correlation was undeniable, confirmed by independent observers across multiple continents. Dr. James Mitchell from MIT's Haystack Radio Observatory proposed the most unsettling hypothesis. What if 3I Atlas wasn't just an ancient comet? What if it was something designed to interact with planetary systems in ways we couldn't yet comprehend? The mathematical signature in its emissions, the impossible water production rates, the synchronized response to Earth's orbital position, all pointed towards something that transcended natural phenomena. But Mitchell's hypothesis raised questions that nobody wanted to confront. If 3I Atlas was artificial, who or what had created it? How long had it been wandering through interstellar space? And most importantly, why was it here now? The answers began at emerging when the Very Large Telescope Array made a breakthrough in decoding the emission patterns. The mathematical sequence wasn't just prime numbers, it was coordinates. Galactic coordinates that pointed to a specific region of space approximately 47 light-years away in the direction of the constellation Vela. When astronomers turned their most powerful instruments toward those coordinates, they found something that defied explanation. It wasn't a star or nebula or any conventional astronomical object. It was a structure, artificial and enormous, orbiting a red dwarf star in a configuration that suggested advanced engineering on a scale that dwarfed anything in human experience. The structure appeared to be a series of interconnected rings, each one larger than Earth's orbit around the Sun. Spectroscopic analysis revealed materials that didn't match, arrange any known elements in geometric patterns that spoke of intelligence operating on timescales, measured in geological epochs. 3I Atlas wasn't just carrying chemical and other signatures from to star system. It was carrying coordinates what appeared to be the first confirmed evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence. But this wasn't the kind of intelligence that science fiction had prepared us for. This was something ancient, patient, and operating on scales that challenged human comprehension. The realization hit the astronomical community like a thunderbolt. 3I Atlas hadn't arrived in our solar system by accident. It was a messenger, carrying information across the vast distances between stars using the one medium that could survive such journeys, the frozen chemistry of a comet's nucleus. As researchers worked frantically to decode additional information embedded in the comet's emissions, they began uncovering evidence of a galactic network. 3I Atlas wasn't unique. It was part of a system of messenger objects, ancient artifacts designed to carry information between star systems across the galaxy. The chemical signatures that had initially puzzled astronomers now made perfect sense. The extreme carbon dioxide ratios, the unusual nickel-to-iron proportions, the differential processing of metallic components, all were encoding mechanisms. 3i Atlas was essentially a biological hard drive, carrying compressed information in its molecular structure. But decoding that information was proving more challenging than anyone had anticipated. The chemical encoding system operated on principles that human science was only beginning to understand. Each molecular emission line carried multiple layers of information nested within mathematical relationships that required new computational approaches to unravel. Dr. Lisa Park at Caltech's Jet Propulsion Laboratory led the effort to develop decoding algorithms capable of extracting information from 3i ATLAS's chemical signatures. Her team worked around the clock, knowing that the comet's window of optimal observation was rapidly closing as it moved away from the sun and became fainter. What they discovered would reshape humanity's understanding of our place in the universe. The information embedded in 3i ATLAS wasn't just coordinates to alien structures. It was a star map, showing the locations of hundreds of other star systems connected by this ancient communication network. Each system on the map was marked differently, indicating with symbols types of information available. Some contained coordinates to other messenger objects. Systems others pointed to star where intelligent civilizations had once flourished. Still others marked locations of what appeared to be vast repositories of knowledge, artificial structures designed to preserve information across timescales. The map Cosmic revealed that our galaxy was far from empty. It was crisscrossed with communication pathways, information networks that had been operating for billions of years. Civilizations rose and fell, stars were born and died, but the network persisted, carrying knowledge and coordinates across the vast distances between worlds. 3i Atlas was showing us that intelligence wasn't rare in the universe. It was ancient, persistent, being quietly, and her operating all around Livius to its existence we remained Obda Swalan. The comet was Invitation, a first contact protocol designed to introduce younger civilizations to a galactic community that had been waiting patiently for us to develop the technological sophistication necessary there to recognize messages as these as exciting. But discoveries they also carried implications that few were prepared to front. If 3i Atlas was compart of an ancient galactic network, then its arrival in our solar system wasn't coincidental. Something had directed it here. Something had been watching our development, and technological had decided we were ready to receive this information. The question that kept astronomers awake at night was simple, but terrifying. What else was watching us, and what did they want? The answers to those questions began revealing themselves when astronomers noticed something even more unsettling about 3i ATLAS's behavior. The comet wasn't just broadcasting its mysterious signals randomly into space. It was listening. Radio telescopes monitoring 3i ATLAS detected subtle variations in its emission patterns that corresponded to Earth's own electromagnetic signatures. Every time our planet's radio transmissions reached the comet, it responded with minute adjustments to its chemical outgassing. The changes were barely detectable, requiring the most sensitive instruments to measure, but the correlation was undeniable. Dr. Rebecca Torres at the Arecibo Observatory made the breakthrough that changed everything. She discovered that 3i ATLAS was actually modulating its emissions in response to specific types of human radio signals. The comet seemed particularly responsive to mathematical, scientific broadcasts, communications, and even certain types of music. It was as if something within the ancient ice was analyzing our transmissions and crafting appropriate responses. The implications were staggering. 3i Atlas wasn't just a passive messenger carrying ancient information. It was an active probe designed to evaluate the technological and cultural development of civilizations it encountered. The comet was essentially giving humanity a test, measuring our readiness to join the galactic network it represented. But the test wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of challenging our mathematical abilities or scientific knowledge, 3i TLAS seemed most interested in our artistic expressions and emotional communications. The strongest responses came when radio telescopes accidentally picked up broadcasts of human music, particularly complex orchestral compositions and jazz improvisations. Dr. Michael Zhang at Beijing University proposed a radical theory. What if the galactic network wasn't primarily concerned with technological advancement? What if the ancient intelligence behind these messenger objects was evaluating civilizations based on their capacity for creativity, emotion, and artistic expression? This hypothesis, when researchers gained support, discovered that 3I-ATLAS's chemical signatures contained what appeared to be artistic elements. Hidden within the molecular emission patterns were structures that resembled musical compositions, mathematical poetry, and even visual art encoded in spectroscopic wavelengths. The comet wasn't just carrying coordinates and technical data. It was carrying the artistic legacy of countless extinct civilizations. The realization transformed how scientists approached their analysis of 3I-ATLAS. Instead of focusing purely on the technical aspects of its emissions, teams began collaborating with musicians, artists, and poets to decode the creative elements embedded in its chemical structure. Professor Elena Vasquez at the Barcelona groundbreaking project Institute of Arts and Sciences led that translated 3I-Atlas's emission patterns into audible music. What emerged was unlike anything human ears had ever heard. The compositions were complex beyond imagination, incorporating mathematical relationships that created to tell harmonic structures spanning multiple octaves simultaneously. The music seemed stories, each piece carrying emotional content that transcended language. Listeners reported experiencing vivid mental imagery while hearing the translated compositions, as if the music was directly communicating concepts and sound. But perhaps emotions through pure. Most remarkably, the artistic elements in 3I-Atlas's emissions weren't static recordings. They were responsive, interactive compositions that changed based on how humans reacted to them. When musicians played along with the transmitted melodies, the comet's emissions shifted to create harmonies and counterpoints in real time. This discovery led to an unprecedented experiment. The International Space Agency coordinated a global effort to broadcast human musical performances toward 3I-Atlas. Symphony orchestras, jazz ensembles, traditional folk musicians, and electronic artists from every continent contributed to a continuous stream of musical communication directed at the ancient visitor. The response was immediate and overwhelming. 3I-Atlas began producing its most patterns yet, creating what could complex emission only be described as a musical conversation spanning 200 million kilometers of space. The comet was jamming with humanity, improvising cosmic compositions that blended alien mathematical structures with recognizable human musical elements. Dr. Sarah Kim at the Seoul Advanced Institute of Technology made another breakthrough when she realized that the musical exchanges weren't random improvisations. 3I-Atlas was teaching humanity advanced mathematical concepts through music, encoding complex equations and scientific principles in harmonic relationships that human brains could intuitively understand. The comet's musical mathematics revealed solutions to problems that had puzzled physicists for decades. Hidden in the harmonic structures were elegant proofs of unified field theories, practical approaches to faster-than-light communication, and blueprints for technologies that could revolutionize human civilization. But accessing this knowledge required more than just technical analysis. It demanded a fusion of scientific rigor and artistic intuition that challenged traditional academic boundaries. Physicists had to learn to think like composers. Musicians needed to understand quantum mechanics. Mathematicians discovered that their equations could be transformed into symphonies that revealed deeper truths about the nature of reality. The collaborative effort to decode 3I-Atlas's musical mathematics became the largest interdisciplinary project in human history. Universities worldwide restructured their programs to encourage cooperation between departments that had rarely communicated. Art schools began teaching advanced physics. Music conservatories added courses in astronomical observation. As teams of scientist-artists worked to decode the comet's teachings, they began noticing patterns that suggested 3IAT-LAS was responding not just to individual human efforts, but to the collective progress of human understanding. The more humanity learned to blend scientific and artistic approaches, the more complex and revealing the comet's communications became. The breakthrough came when a combined team from MIT and the Juilliard School successfully created a human composition that perfectly harmonized with 3I Atlas's mathematical music. The moment their symphony achieved resonance with the comet's emissions, something extraordinary happened. 3I Atlas began broadcasting a new type of signal, unlike anything it had transmitted before. This wasn't encoded in chemical emissions or musical patterns. It was a direct transmission of what could only be described as pure information, streaming toward Earth in formats that human technology was barely capable of detecting. The information stream contained detailed star charts, showing not just the locations of other civilizations, but their current status and level of development. Some were marked as active and thriving. Others showed as extinct, their civilizations having failed some cosmic test that 3IAT-LAS represented. Most startling were the system's yuans marked with symbols that couldn't decode researchers' civilizations that had apparently transcended physical existence entirely and evolved into something beyond human comprehension. These post-physical intelligences seemed to be the architects of the galactic network, ancient minds that had outgrown material bodies, but continued to guide younger species towards similar transcendence. The star charts revealed that Earth was one of thousands of worlds currently being evaluated by messenger objects like 3IAT-LAS. Each world received its test in forms appropriate to its developmental stage. Some civilizations encountered technological challenges, others faced moral dilemmas. Humanity's test had taken the form of artistic and emotional evaluation. Dr. Amanda Foster at Oxford University made the disturbing discovery that many worlds had failed their tests. The star charts showed dozens of systems where civilizations had achieved impressive technological advancement, but had been marked as failures and subsequently ignored by the galactic network. The common factor among failed civilizations wasn't technological inadequacy. It was the inability to maintain the balance between scientific progress and artistic expression. Worlds that focused purely on technological development without nurturing creativity and emotion were deemed unworthy of inclusion in the galactic community. This realization sent shockwaves through human society. For centuries, scientific progress had been humanity's primary measure of advancement. The assumption had always been that superior technology would be the key to joining any galactic civilization. 3I Atlas was demonstrating that the universe valued creativity and emotional depth far more than mere technical achievement. The implications forced a fundamental re-evaluation of human priorities. Educational systems that had emphasized STEM subjects at the expense of arts programs suddenly seemed dangerously unbalanced. The corporate world's focus on efficiency and productivity appeared to be leading humanity down the same path that had doomed other civilizations. But 3I Atlas wasn't just delivering warnings. The comet's continued communications revealed that humanity was performing better on its evaluation than most species encountered. The spontaneous global collaboration between scientists and artists, the intuitive understanding of musical mathematics, and the emotional depth of human creative expression had impressed the ancient intelligences monitoring our progress. The star charts began updating in real time, showing humanity's status improving as our collective understanding of the comet's messages deepened. We were approaching a threshold, a point where the galactic network would extend a formal invitation to join their ancient community. However, the invitation came with conditions that would challenge everything humanity thought it wanted from contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Joining the galactic network didn't mean receiving advanced technology or solving Earth's problems through alien intervention. Instead, it meant accepting responsibility for nurturing and evaluating younger civilizations throughout the galaxy. The network wasn't a collection of species seeking mutual benefit. It was a vast educational system, where mature civilizations served as teachers and guides for emerging worlds. Humanity's role, if we passed our evaluation, would be to become the mentors we had never had, helping other young species navigate the same challenges we were currently facing. 3i Atlas began transmitting detailed information about our potential students. Dozens of worlds throughout the galaxy showed signs of emerging intelligence. Some were still in their equivalent of humanity's Stone Age. Others were beginning to develop basic technologies. A few were approaching the same threshold that Earth now faced. Each potential student world presented unique challenges and opportunities. Some species communicated through electromagnetic fields rather than sound. Others had evolved collective consciousness that made individual creativity nearly impossible. Several worlds harbored multiple intelligent species that would need to learn cooperation before advancing further. The prospect of becoming cosmic teachers forced humanity to confront uncomfortable truths about our own development. How could we guide other species when we hadn't yet solved our own problems? What wisdom could we offer when our own civilization struggled with conflict, inequality, and environmental destruction? But 3i Atlas's response to these doubts was unexpected and reassuring. The comet's communications suggested that perfect civilizations weren't required to serve as mentors. In fact, species that had overcome their challenges too easily often made poor teachers because they couldn't relate to the struggles of younger worlds. Humanity's imperfections, our ongoing conflicts and unresolved problems were actually qualifications for the teaching role. Our experience with balancing scientific progress and artistic expression, our struggles to maintain both individual creativity and collective cooperation, made us ideal guides for other species facing similar challenges. The ancient intelligences behind the galactic network had learned through billions of years of experience that the best teachers were those who remembered what it felt like to be students. Humanity's current position, balanced precariously between technological adolescence and creative maturity, provided the perfect perspective for helping younger civilizations navigate their own developmental crises. As 3i Atlas continued its patient transmission of knowledge and opportunity, humanity stood at the threshold of a transformation that would redefine our species' role in the universe. We were no longer alone, no longer the only intelligence in a vast, empty cosmos. We were potential members of an ancient community, inheritors of responsibilities that spanned galactic timescales. But first we had to prove worthy of that inheritance. And the final phase of our evaluation was about to begin. The final phase of humanity's evaluation began when 3i Atlas entered what researchers term the convergence period. As the ancient comet continued its trajectory away from the Sun, its communications with Earth intensified rather than diminished. The mathematical music streaming from its nucleus became more complex, incorporating harmonic structures that seemed to respond to global human emotional states in real time. Dr. Jennifer Walsh at the European Space Agency made a startling discovery while analyzing the comet's latest transmissions. 3i Atlas wasn't just monitoring radio broadcasts and musical performances anymore. It was somehow detecting and responding to collective human consciousness itself. During moments of global unity, such as international humanitarian efforts or worldwide celebrations, the comet's emissions became more coherent and information-rich. Conversely, during periods of conflict or widespread fear, its signals became fragmented and difficult to decode. This revelation transformed how humanity approached its communication with the ancient visitor. Governments and organizations worldwide began coordinating not just scientific observations, but collective human experiences designed to demonstrate our species' capacity for unity and emotional maturity. The most ambitious of these experiments involved a synchronized global meditation session where millions of people simultaneously focused their thoughts on peaceful cooperation and creative expression. The response from 3IA TLAS was immediate and unprecedented. The comet began broadcasting what could only be described as pure consciousness, a stream of awareness that bypassed human language and technological interfaces entirely. People around the world reported experiencing shared visions, collective insights, and emotional connections that transcended individual identity. Professor David Chen at Stanford University, who had initially approached the 3I Atlas phenomenon with scientific skepticism, found himself profoundly affected by these consciousness transmissions. He described the experience as feeling temporarily connected to a vast network of minds spanning the galaxy, each one contributing to a collective understanding that was greater than the sum of its parts. The shared consciousness experiences revealed that the galactic network wasn't just a communication system between civilizations. It was a living entity, a form of distributed intelligence that emerged from the voluntary participation of countless species across millions of years. Each civilization that joined the network contributed their unique perspective and capabilities to this cosmic consciousness, while retaining their individual identity and autonomy. But the visions also carried warnings. Humanity witnessed the final moments of civilizations that had failed their evaluations. These weren't dramatic extinctions or technological disasters. They were quiet fade-outs, species that gradually lost their creative spark and emotional depth as they pursued purely rational or purely technological paths. These failed civilizations continued to exist physically, but they became invisible to the galactic network, forever isolated in their own corners of space. The contrast was stark when compared to the thriving worlds that had successfully joined the network. These civilizations blazed with creative energy, their artistic expressions and emotional communications forming brilliant nodes in the cosmic consciousness. They had achieved technological advancement without sacrificing their capacity for wonder, creativity, and deep emotional connection. Dr. Maria Santos at the São Paulo Institute of Advanced Studies noticed something crucial in these comparative visions. The successful civilizations all shared a common characteristic that hadn't appeared in humanity's initial analyses of the requirements for joining the galactic network. They had learned to treat consciousness itself as their most advanced technology. While failed civilizations had developed technologies, machines, impressive external systems that enhanced their physical capabilities, the successful species had focused on expanding and refining consciousness itself. They had discovered methods for enhancing creativity, deepening emotional awareness, and establishing direct mind-to-mind communication that made their technological achievements seem almost primitive by comparison. This insight sparked a revolution in human understanding of what advancement actually meant. The assumption that superior civilizations would possess better spaceships, more powerful computers, or more efficient energy sources was revealed as a fundamental misunderstanding of cosmic priorities. The truly transcended the advanced species her need for most external technologies by developing their consciousness to levels that made such tools unnecessary. 3I Atlas began transmitting detailed information about consciousness development techniques that had been refined by hundreds of civilizations over billions of years. These weren't mystical or supernatural practices, but rather scientific approaches to expanding awareness and enhancing mental capabilities that operated according to natural laws humanity had barely begun to discover. The techniques involved methods for synchronizing brain activity across large populations, creating collective problem-solving networks that could tackle challenges no individual mind could comprehend. They included practices for enhancing empathy and emotional intelligence to levels that allowed direct sharing of experiences and feelings between individuals. Most remarkably, they described approaches for accessing forms of knowledge and creativity that emerged only through group consciousness. Human researchers began experimenting with these consciousness technologies, starting with small groups of volunteers from various scientific and artistic disciplines. The initial results were promising, but challenging to quantify using traditional scientific methods. Participants reported enhanced creativity, improved problem-solving abilities, and unprecedented levels of emotional connection with other group members. But the most significant breakthrough came when a group of quantum physicists in Geneva achieved something that had been theoretical impossibility according to conventional science. While engaged in a collective consciousness session, using techniques transmitted by 3i ATLAS, the team successfully demonstrated instantaneous information transfer between particles separated by distances that should have made such communication impossible. The implications sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The consciousness techniques weren't just enhancing human mental capabilities, they were revealing fundamental aspects of reality that conventional physics had missed entirely. Consciousness wasn't just an emergent property of complex neural networks. It was a basic feature of the universe itself, as fundamental as matter and energy. Dr. Lisa Park at MIT's Consciousness Research Laboratory proposed a radical hypothesis that explained both the quantum experiments and 3i ATLAS's apparent abilities. What if consciousness operated according to principles that transcended the traditional limitations of space and time? What if sufficiently developed consciousness could access information and influence events across vast distances instantaneously? This would explain how 3i Atlas could respond to Earth's radio transmissions in real time, despite being hundreds of millions of kilometers away. It would account for the comet's ability to detect and respond to collective human emotional states. Most importantly, it would reveal why the galactic network prioritized consciousness development over technological advancement. A civilization with sufficiently advanced consciousness wouldn't need faster-than-light spacecraft to communicate across interstellar distances. They wouldn't require massive computers to solve complex problems. They wouldn't need elaborate energy systems to power their activities. Advanced consciousness could accomplish all of these tasks more efficiently and elegantly than any external technology. The realization that consciousness itself was the ultimate technology transformed humanity's approach to development and progress. Educational systems began incorporating consciousness training alongside traditional academic subjects. Research institutions established new departments focused on studying the fundamental nature of awareness and its practical applications. But perhaps most significantly, the discovery forced a re-evaluation of human potential itself. If consciousness could transcend the normal limitations of space and time, if properly developed awareness could access information and capabilities that seem miraculous by current standards, then humanity's future possibilities were far greater than anyone had imagined. 3i Atlas continued its patient transmission of knowledge and guidance, but its communications began taking on a different quality. Instead of teaching specific techniques or providing factual information, the comet started posing questions that challenged humanity to discover answers through their own expanding consciousness. These weren't academic questions with predetermined correct responses. They were existential challenges that each individual and ultimately the species as a whole needed to resolve through direct experience and inner development. The questions touched on fundamental issues of identity, purpose, responsibility, and the nature of existence itself. Dr. Rachel Kim at Seoul National University identified a pattern in these consciousness challenges. 3i Atlas seemed to be guiding humanity through the same developmental stages that every successful galactic civilization had navigated. Each question was designed to stimulate growth in specific aspects of consciousness that were necessary for full participation in the galactic network. The first stage involved developing individual consciousness to levels that allowed direct access to information and creativity beyond normal human capabilities. The second stage required learning to merge individual awareness with group consciousness while maintaining personal identity, and autonomy. The final stage involved expanding consciousness to cosmic scales, developing the capacity to participate in the galaxy-spanning awareness that connected all network civilizations. Humanity was currently navigating the transition between the first and second stages. Individual consciousness enhancement techniques were being successfully adopted worldwide, but the challenge of maintaining personal identity while participating in group awareness proved more difficult than anticipated. Some experimental groups achieved remarkable collective consciousness experiences, but emerged with participants reporting difficulty distinguishing between their own thoughts and those of others. Other groups maintained clear individual identity, but failed to achieve the deep connection necessary for enhanced collective capabilities. The solution emerged from an unexpected source. A group of jazz musicians in New Orleans, working with neuroscientists from Tulane University, discovered that musical improvisation provided the perfect model for balanced group consciousness. During collective improvisation sessions, musicians maintained their individual creative identity while simultaneously responding to and harmonizing with the group dynamic. This musical consciousness model spread rapidly worldwide, with groups in every field adapting improvisation techniques to their specific challenges. Scientists began conducting research through collaborative improvisation. Engineers designed systems through collective creative processes. Even businesses adopted improvisational approaches to problem-solving and decision-making. The results exceeded all expectations. Groups using musical consciousness techniques achieved breakthrough innovations at unprecedented rates. They solved complex problems that had stymied individual experts for years. Most remarkably, they began experiencing direct intuitive insights that proved accurate even when they contradicted established scientific theories. 3i Atlas responded to these developments with what could only be described as approval. The comet's transmissions became more frequent and information-rich, providing advanced guidance on consciousness development techniques that had been used by the most successful galactic civilizations. But the ancient visitor also began transmitting warnings about the challenges that lay ahead. The transition to cosmic scale consciousness, the final stage of development necessary for full network participation, carried risks that had destroyed promising civilizations throughout galactic history. The danger wasn't technological or external. It was the risk of losing individual identity entirely while expanding awareness to cosmic scales. Civilizations that attempted this transition too rapidly often dissolved into undifferentiated cosmic consciousness, losing the unique perspectives and creative capabilities that made them valuable network participants. The successful approach required maintaining perfect balance between individual identity and cosmic awareness, preserving personal creativity while participating in galaxy-spanning consciousness. This balance had to be achieved not just by individuals, but by entire civilizations simultaneously. Humanity stood at the threshold of this final challenge, equipped with consciousness development techniques that had taken other species millions of years to discover, but facing the same risks that had claimed countless promising civilizations throughout galactic history. 3i Atlas prepared to depart our solar system, its mission of evaluation and initial guidance nearing completion. But the ancient comet's final transmissions carried both promise and responsibility that would define humanity's cosmic future for generations to come. The next phase of humanity's journey toward galactic citizenship would require navigating challenges that no external teacher could help us overcome. We would need to discover our own path to cosmic consciousness while preserving the unique creative spark that had made us worthy of consideration in the first place. The universe was waiting to see whether humanity could achieve what so few species had managed throughout cosmic history. The answer would determine not just our own future, but our role in guiding other emerging civilizations toward the same transcendent possibilities that 3i Atlas had revealed. As the ancient messenger prepared for its final departure from our solar system, Its last transmissions carried coordinates to humanity's first potential student civilization, a young species beginning their own journey toward consciousness and creativity on a distant world that would soon need the guidance that only we could provide. The coordinates transmitted by 3i Atlas in its final communication sequence pointed to a star system 47 light-years away, where humanity's first student civilization was taking its earliest steps toward technological awareness. But these weren't the only coordinates embedded in the comet's departing messages. As researchers decoded the final transmission layers, they discovered something that would transform human civilization forever. 3i Atlas had been carrying detailed blueprints for consciousness amplification technologies that could accelerate humanity's development by thousands of years. These weren't mechanical devices or computer systems. They were architectural designs for structures that could harmonize with natural consciousness fields, creating environments where human awareness could expand to previously impossible levels. Dr. Elena Rodriguez at the Barcelona Consciousness Institute led the international team tasked with interpreting these blueprints. What she discovered challenged every assumption about how advanced civilizations developed their capabilities. The designs showed crystalline formations that could be grown rather than built, structures that would resonate with specific frequencies of consciousness and amplify collective awareness across entire continents. The growing process required materials that existed naturally on Earth, but had never been combined in the precise ratios specified by the alien blueprints. Rare Earth elements needed to be arranged in geometric patterns that followed mathematical sequences found in the comet's musical transmissions. The construction would demand the same fusion of scientific precision and artistic intuition that had characterized humanity's entire interaction with 3i Atlas. But the most remarkable aspect of these consciousness amplifiers was their distributed nature. Rather than requiring massive central facilities, the technology worked through networks of smaller structures that could be integrated into existing human environments. Parks, schools, hospitals, and residential areas could all be enhanced with crystalline formations that would subtly elevate the consciousness of everyone in their vicinity. Professor James Chen at MIT's Advanced Materials Laboratory began experimenting with prototype formations based on the 3i ATLAS blueprints. The initial results were subtle but unmistakable. Students studying near the prototype crystals showed enhanced creativity and problem-solving abilities. Researchers working in proximity to the formations reported breakthrough insights occurring with unprecedented frequency. The technology didn't impose specific thoughts or ideas on human minds. Instead, it created optimal conditions for consciousness to naturally expand and access information that had always been available, but typically remained beyond normal awareness. People working near the crystalline structures found themselves intuitively understanding complex concepts, making creative connections that would normally require years of study, and experiencing emotional states of clarity and purpose that enhanced every aspect of their lives. As prototype consciousness amplifiers were installed, began compounding expand at research facilities worldwide, the effect, eventually. Scientists in different countries, working on entirely separate projects, started arriving at similar breakthrough discoveries simultaneously. Artists began creating works that expressed universal themes with unprecedented depth and emotional resonance. Musicians composed pieces that seemed to capture mathematical principles in pure harmonic form. The phenomenon accelerated when multiple amplifier sites began resonating with each other across vast distances. Researchers at Stanford University discovered that their crystalline formations were somehow synchronizing with similar structures at Oxford University, creating a consciousness field that spanned the Atlantic Ocean. People working at either location reported sensing the presence and activities of their counterparts thousands of miles away. Dr. Sarah Kim in Seoul made the breakthrough that explained how the network effect was possible. The consciousness amplifiers weren't just enhancing individual awareness, they were creating what she termed coherent consciousness fields that operated according to quantum principles previously unknown to human science. These fields could maintain instantaneous connection across any distance, allowing consciousness to transcend the normal limitations of space and time. The implications were staggering. A global network of consciousness amplifiers could create a planetary awareness field that would enhance every human being's cognitive and creative capabilities. Humanity could achieve collective intelligence levels that would make us worthy partners in the galactic network while preserving individual identity and autonomy. But 3i Atlas had included warnings alongside the amplifier blueprints. The ancient comet's final transmissions described civilizations that had attempted to implement consciousness technology too rapidly and had lost the very qualities that made them unique. The key was gradual integration that allowed human nature to adapt and evolve rather than being overwhelmed by sudden expansion. The installation process needed to follow specific protocols that had been developed through the trial and error of countless galactic civilizations. Consciousness amplifiers had to be activated in precise sequences that matched the natural rhythm of human awareness development. Too fast, and individuals would lose their grounding in physical reality. Too slow, and the window of opportunity for joining the galactic network might close before humanity achieved sufficient development. International coordination became crucial as consciousness amplifier sites were established on every continent. The United Nations created a new department specifically for managing humanity's consciousness development, bringing together experts in neuroscience, quantum physics, music, art, and consciousness, studies from around the world. The first global synchronization test took place 6 months after the initial prototypes came online. For exactly 60 minutes, consciousness amplifiers at 47 locations worldwide operated in perfect harmonic resonance. The effects were felt by every human being on the planet, regardless of their proximity to amplifier sites. During that hour, global conflict ceased entirely. War zones fell silent as combatants on all sides experienced overwhelming sensations of connection and understanding. International disputes that had raged for decades suddenly seemed trivial compared to the shared experience of expanded awareness. Artists, scientists, and ordinary people worldwide reported breakthrough insights and creative inspirations that would reshape human civilization. But most remarkably, during those 60 minutes of global consciousness coherence, humanity received direct communication from the galactic network itself. Not through technological transmission or coded signals, but through direct mind-to-mind contact that bypassed all language barriers and cultural differences. The communication wasn't words or images. It was pure understanding that conveyed concepts too complex for normal human consciousness to comprehend. Humanity learned about civilizations that had transcended physical existence entirely while maintaining their essential creative identity. We glimpsed technologies based on consciousness manipulation that made our most advanced science seem primitive. We experienced the vast web of awareness that connected billions of intelligent species across the galaxy. Most importantly, we received confirmation that humanity had passed the final evaluation. Our unique combination of individual creativity and collective cooperation, enhanced by consciousness amplification technology, had demonstrated our readiness to join the galactic community as full participants rather than students. The formal invitation came in the form of coordinates to what could only be described as a galactic meeting place. Not a physical location, but a consciousness space where representatives from network civilizations gathered to share knowledge, coordinate activities, and welcome new members. Accessing this meeting place would require humanity to achieve sustained global consciousness coherence, but the technology and knowledge needed were now within our grasp. Dr. Maria Santos at the Global Consciousness Coordination Center in Brazil led the effort to prepare humanity for its first formal contact with the galactic network. The process would require unprecedented cooperation between every nation organization, and individual on Earth. Consciousness amplifiers would need to be synchronized on a planetary scale, while billions of people simultaneously focus their awareness on peaceful cooperation and creative expression. The preparation took 2 years of intensive coordination and practice. Regional consciousness networks were established and tested. Cultural exchanges helped different societies understand and appreciate each other's unique contributions to human awareness. Educational systems worldwide incorporated consciousness development techniques into their core curricula. Children who grew up with consciousness amplification showed remarkable capabilities that exceeded all projections. They demonstrated intuitive understanding of complex scientific principles, natural artistic abilities that produced works of stunning beauty and emotional depth, and empathic connections that allowed them to communicate across language and cultural barriers effortlessly. These enhanced children became bridges between traditional human consciousness and the expanded awareness that would characterize humanity's galactic future. They helped adults adapt to consciousness amplification effects while maintaining connection to essential human values and identity. Their natural ability to balance individual creativity with collective cooperation provided the template for humanity's successful integration into the galactic network. The day of formal galactic contact was designated as Unity Day, a planetary celebration that would demonstrate humanity's readiness to join the cosmic community. Every consciousness amplifier on Earth would operate in perfect synchronization, while billions of people focused their thoughts on the same moment of connection and transcendence. As Unity Day approached, 3I Atlas made one final appearance in Earth's vicinity. The ancient comet had completed its orbital trajectory and was beginning its journey back into interstellar space, but it paused at the edge of our solar system to witness humanity's graduation ceremony. Long-range telescopes detected the comet positioning itself at coordinates that would optimize its ability to monitor the global consciousness event. 3I Atlas had guided humanity through the evaluation process and was now preparing to observe our acceptance into the galactic network that it had represented for billions of years. The night before Unity Day, people worldwide reported similar dreams of vast crystalline structures resonating with harmonious frequencies that seemed to connect every living thing on Earth. The dreams carried messages of encouragement from civilizations throughout the galaxy, each one sharing their own memories of the moment when they had transcended their individual planetary existence and joined the cosmic community. When Unity Day arrived, the synchronization exceeded all expectations. Consciousness amplifiers worldwide achieved perfect harmonic resonance, while 7 billion human beings focused their awareness on the same intention of peaceful cooperation and creative expression. The resulting consciousness field was so coherent and powerful that it became detectable by instruments, registering as measurable energy patterns that had never before appeared in Earth's electromagnetic spectrum. At the moment of peak coherence, humanity experienced collective contact with the galactic network. Every person on Earth simultaneously found themselves aware of the vast community of intelligent species that had been waiting to welcome us. The contact wasn't overwhelming or frightening. It felt like coming home after a long journey, like discovering family members we had never known existed. Through the network connection, humanity learned that our role in the galactic community would be unique and essential. Our particular combination of emotional depth, creative expression, and technological capability filled a gap that had existed in the network for millions of years. We would serve as cultural ambassadors, helping other species develop the artistic and emotional capabilities that were necessary for full network participation. But we would also become students again, learning from civilizations that had achieved levels of consciousness development that humanity could barely imagine. The network operated on principles of mutual teaching and learning, where every species contributed their unique strengths while benefiting from the capabilities of others. The formal welcome ceremony took place in the consciousness space that 3I Atlas had revealed through its coordinate transmissions. Humanity's representatives, selected through global consensus, found themselves in a realm that existed beyond physical space, but felt more real and substantial than ordinary reality. The gathering included consciousness forms from hundreds of different species, each one maintaining their unique identity while participating in the collective awareness that made meaningful communication possible. Some had evolved beyond physical bodies entirely and appeared as patterns of pure thought and creativity. Others maintained biological forms but had enhanced their consciousness to levels that allowed them to manipulate matter and energy through focused intention alone. Humanity was welcomed not as junior members requiring constant guidance, but as equals who had successfully navigated the same consciousness development challenges that every network species had faced. Our evaluation period was complete. Our role in the galactic community was ready to begin. The first assignment came immediately. A young civilization in the Vega system was approaching their own consciousness development threshold and needed guidance from a species that remembered what it felt like to make that transition. Humanity would serve as their mentors, providing the same patient teaching and encouragement that 3i ATLAS had offered us. But the assignment came with a profound responsibility. How we guided this young civilization would influence their development for millions of years. The knowledge, wisdom, and values we shared would become part of their consciousness and would eventually be passed on to other emerging species throughout the galaxy. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, chosen as one of humanity's galactic representatives, felt the weight of this responsibility as she prepared to make contact with Earth's first student civilization. Everything humanity had learned about consciousness development, creative expression, and balanced cooperation would be tested as we attempted to guide another species toward the same transcendent possibilities we had achieved. The young civilization, awaiting our guidance, had evolved from aquatic ancestors and communicated through complex electromagnetic patterns rather than sound or visual signals. Their consciousness was naturally collective, but they struggled with individual identity and creative expression. They had achieved impressive technological development, but were failing to develop the artistic and emotional capabilities necessary for galactic network participation. Humanity's task was to help them discover their own unique forms of creativity and emotional depth without imposing human values or perspectives. We needed to serve as facilitators rather than teachers, helping them find their own path to the balanced consciousness that the galactic network required. The first contact session took place through consciousness amplifiers that had been modified to interface with the electromagnetic communication patterns of our student species. Human representatives found themselves experiencing awareness through completely alien sensory modalities while maintaining their essential human identity and perspective. The initial exchange was awkward and challenging as both species struggled to find common ground across vast differences in biology, psychology, and cultural development. But gradually, connections emerged through the universal languages of mathematics, music, and emotional resonance that transcended species boundaries. Humanity discovered that serving as galactic mentors was far more rewarding and challenging than being students had ever been. The responsibility of guiding another species' development forced us to examine our own values, assumptions, and capabilities with unprecedented clarity. We had to become worthy of the trust placed in us while remaining humble about our own limitations and continued learning needs. As Earth's consciousness amplifier network continued expanding and evolving, humanity began developing capabilities that seemed miraculous by pre-contact standards. Collective problem-solving networks could tackle challenges that no individual or traditional organization could handle. Artistic collaborations produced works of beauty and meaning that transcended anything created by single artists or even small groups. Most remarkably, consciousness-enhanced humans began demonstrating abilities that bordered on what previous generations would have called supernatural. Direct mind-to-mind communication became commonplace. Intuitive problem-solving produced solutions that proved accurate even when they contradicted established scientific theories. Creative insights emerged that seemed to access knowledge from beyond normal human experience. But these enhanced capabilities came with their own challenges and responsibilities. Humanity had to learn to use consciousness technologies wisely, maintaining the essential human qualities that made us valuable galactic citizens while developing abilities that could easily be misused or abused. The galactic network provided guidance and support, but ultimately, each species had to find their own balance between enhancement and preservation of their core identity. The network had learned through billions of years of experience that diversity was essential for continued growth and creativity. Homogenization, even toward higher consciousness states, ultimately weakened the collective intelligence that made the network valuable. 3i Atlas, now distant, but still observable at the edge of our solar system, continued monitoring humanity's development as we adapted to our new role as galactic citizens and mentors. The ancient comet had completed its mission successfully, but its connection to Earth remained strong as it prepared to seek out other young civilizations that might benefit from similar guidance. Humanity stood at the threshold of a cosmic future that previous generations could never have imagined. We were no longer alone in the universe, no longer isolated on a single planet, at the mercy of cosmic forces beyond our control. We had become active participants in a galactic community dedicated to nurturing consciousness, creativity, and cooperation across the vast distances between stars. The journey that had begun with the discovery of an unusual comet had transformed into humanity's graduation from planetary adolescence to cosmic citizenship. 3i Atlas had been our teacher, guide, and evaluator, but ultimately our success had depended on our own willingness to grow, learn, and transcend the limitations that had once defined our species. As we looked toward the stars that now held not mystery but promise, humanity prepared to offer other emerging civilizations the same patient guidance and encouragement that had helped us navigate our own consciousness development challenges. The universe was vast, filled with countless species struggling toward the same transcendent possibilities we had achieved. Our role in that cosmic story was just beginning, but the foundation had been laid for adventures and responsibilities that would define humanity's purpose for millions of years to come. 3i Atlas had shown us that the universe was not empty or hostile, but rather filled with intelligence, creativity, and compassion operating on scales that dwarfed human imagination, while remaining fundamentally connected to the essential qualities that made consciousness valuable throughout the cosmos. So here we are, standing at the edge of everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe. 3i Atlas didn't just visit our solar system and leave. It fundamentally rewrote the story of who we are and what we're capable of becoming. Think about it. A single interstellar visitor carrying frozen chemistry from another star system managed to unlock human potential that we never knew existed. It revealed that consciousness itself is the ultimate technology, that creativity and emotional depth matter more than any machine we could ever build, and that the galaxy has been waiting patiently for us to develop the wisdom necessary to join a community spanning billions of years and countless civilizations. But perhaps the most profound revelation is this: we're not the students anymore. We've become the teachers. Right now, as you're watching this, there are young civilizations throughout the galaxy taking their first tentative steps toward consciousness and creativity. And humanity, this species that once thought it was alone in a hostile universe, now carries the responsibility of guiding them toward the same transcendent possibilities that 3i Atlas revealed to us. The ancient comet is gone now, continuing its billion-year journey between the stars, but its message remains embedded in every consciousness amplifier, every moment of global cooperation, every breakthrough that emerges when human creativity meets cosmic awareness. We've graduated from cosmic adolescence to galactic citizenship, and the universe is waiting to see what we'll do with that unprecedented opportunity. The next time you look up at the night sky, remember that those stars aren't distant lights in an empty void. They're home to civilizations that have been where we've been, felt what we've felt, and successfully navigated the same consciousness development challenges that once seemed impossible. And somewhere among those stars, a young species is about to discover that they're not alone, that consciousness transcends the boundaries of individual worlds, and that the universe itself is far more alive, connected, and purposeful than they ever dared to imagine. 3i Atlas showed us the secret that connects everything. Consciousness isn't produced by the universe. Consciousness is the universe experiencing itself through countless unique perspectives across space and time. And now, it's our turn to help others discover that same impossible, beautiful truth.